You might know that the body uses carbohydrates as energy, but did you know that your body can run on an alternative fuel? And if your body is resistant to losing weight, converting your metabolism to this alternative energy source might be what your body needs to burn fat. Hi, I'm Dr. Becky, and I'm a college instructor of the science of nutrition.
And I'm Dr. Keith. I'm a chiropractor in private practice for the past 26 years. And you're watching Two Fit Docs, where we are following my progress each week as I lose weight so we can show you how we handle plateaus and accelerate my results.
Yes, and you had another good week.
Yeah, I lost another pound this week for a total now of 27 pounds since we began with our accelerated plan 10 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and you know, your weight has been dropping fairly steadily, even though you had a lot of weight loss resistant issues to begin with. And you know, we feel that we can contribute some of that success to switching your body metabolism so it prefers burning ketones over carbohydrates.
Right, so one of the first things we learn about in nutrition is that carbohydrates are the body's fuel source. But the body has a secondary energy system that utilizes ketones. And ketones are produced by the liver from fatty acids if carbohydrates are not available. So someone who's fasting or eating a low-carb diet will produce ketones.
Right, and the point to take in here is that ketones are made from fatty acids, which are molecules that make up our fat. So when your body is producing ketones, you are burning fat.
Right, and this is what we talk about when we talk about the difference between being a good sugar burner and being a good fat burner.
Right, so you know, a lot of people are resistant to weight loss and they have developed insulin resistance. This causes blood sugar and insulin levels in the blood to stay too high, and that does two things. The high insulin blocks the release of fat from fat cells, and with no fat to burn for energy, the body needs a constant supply of carbs, so you're always craving, you know, sugar and candy and cakes and those types of things.
Right, and we've talked about insulin and its role in my particular metabolism and difficulty losing weight. Being weight loss resistant and in reality insulin resistant made it very difficult to lose weight. I could do it, but it took superhuman willpower, and suffering was a big part of achieving success.
Right. So, you know, when you hate every minute of your diet, you're not going to stick with it, or you're going to stick with it, and then at the end you're going to gain all the weight back.
Right. So in addition to figuring out how to get my body to lose weight, we also had to figure out how I could eat so I would enjoy what I was eating.
Yeah, and you did.
Absolutely. I eat eggs, meat. I can eat cheese because I don't have any problem with dairy. I have a big salad every day that I actually look forward to. It's loaded with seeds and rich dressing. And you know, it's all the things that we've been told not to eat.
Yeah, right. So, but in a way, we've kind of taken your eating back to before the low-fat days, before the 80s and 90s when we were afraid, you know, told to be afraid to eat fat. And as a society, though, we were much less fat.
Right, and we'll be rechecking my blood work in a few weeks, and we expect it to be greatly improved because I want to lose weight, but I also want to improve my health.
Right, absolutely, right. So, okay, so I want you to go back to what you were saying about the challenges with insulin resistance.
All right, so after realizing I was insulin resistant, I started digging through the research. I also had metabolic syndrome since I had a large waist size, high triglycerides, and hypertension or high blood pressure. I knew that losing weight would or should affect these other health factors, but what I found was astonishing. By lowering my carbohydrate intake drastically and raising my fat intake drastically, it was possible to affect all the negative aspects of metabolic syndrome directly. In the process, I learned about nutritional ketosis and decided to put myself into ketosis and monitor the results.
Right, so ketosis, so explain what that is.
Okay, so we need to back up a little bit and explain what happens when you cut carbohydrates to a very low level. Normally our bodies run on carbohydrates or glucose, as all carbohydrates are converted to glucose in the body. Right,
so glucose or sugar, they're the same thing basically. Okay.
Yeah, so out of the three macronutrients, only carbohydrates can be broken down into sugar or glucose and used to fuel the cells of the body.
Right, so there is a process by which proteins can be broken down and eventually form glucose as well, but it's not as efficient as using carbohydrates.
Right, and also protein and fat cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. And the brain does demand to be fed.
Right, and if it doesn't get fed, right, we end up with brain fog or worse, something like that. So as humans, we've developed a unique system to guard against starvation. Last week we talked about how there's very little storage capacity for glucose in our bodies. We typically can store about only a day's worth of glucose. Our fat storage, on the other hand, is much higher. Even a lean person will typically have months' worth of energy stored in his or her fat cells.
Right. The only problem is accessing that fat for energy.
Right.
When glucose is present in the diet, like when we eat carbs, insulin is secreted to help ferry it into the cells for energy. Any excess glucose is converted to triglycerides and stored as body fat.
Right, and here's that seesaw effect that we were talking about earlier. When insulin is above a certain level in the blood, fat can't be liberated from the fat cells for energy. But when glucose is low, insulin is low, and then triglycerides are released for energy.
Right, and when glucose is low, the triglycerides are released. Some of the triglyceride molecules are converted to ketones in the liver, and ketones are the key to fat loss.
Very cute.
Yeah. Turns out the body has a secondary energy system that utilizes these ketones, and they can cross the blood-brain barrier to be used for energy by the brain.
Right, and studies suggest that ketones might actually be the preferred fuel for your brain cells.
And when your body is creating ketones, either from high-fat dietary intake or from the liberation of your fat stores, a person is considered to be in ketosis.
Right.
And when you're in ketosis, you are burning fat. For me, because my body is not sensitive to insulin, I had high insulin levels almost all day long. I had to find a way to lower my insulin and turn on the ketone machinery in order to burn fat and finally lose weight without so much suffering. And that's how we built on the 0-1-2-3 strategy that I started with and accelerated my weight loss by focusing on low carbs and high fat.
Right, so you mentioned 0-1-2-3. That's the high fiber portion of what you're doing and brings an additional healthy aspect into your overall plan. So not only are you keeping your fats high, but also your fiber. And that's kind of the tricky part, right? So because fiber comes from carbohydrate foods. So you have to know how to pick the right carbs so that you have that right fiber to carb balance to keep your blood sugar under control.
Yeah, it's a balance for sure. If you'd like to learn the 0-1-2-3 strategy that got me started, as well as the foods that I added and subtracted from my diet to get my blood sugar where it needed to be, then you can download the starter kit that we put together for you. We'll leave a link here on the video.
And if you want to keep watching Keith's progress week after week, please click the subscribe button and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.